Rebecca Mountain is the international best-selling author, and her book, The Dragon and the Goat, The One That Wins is the One You Feed, helps you take small steps towards that magnificent future that you want. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so what inspired you to write this book?
Why was it that people didn't do the work they were supposed to be doing, right? So with that, I wanted to figure out, living the life that they really, really, really want to live. And so in so doing, what I found is that there are parts of us that hold ourselves back, and that's what the dragon is. But then what I also found are there's another side of us that once we have quieted and shrunk that dragon, so it's not slaying the dragon, because there's parts of like fear and even guilt and shame can be our allies instead of our enemies. And there's parts of that part of our brain that can be really useful, right? So if someone throws an axe at your head, you want to duck without having to think about it. So that instinctive part. So the dragon part is actually the lizard part of our brain, which is fight, flight, freeze, our comfort zone, our comparison, the contrast effect, all that kind of a thing. And yet when that quiets down, how do we lift ourselves up and live the life that we want to live, that we often just sit and just dream about instead of actually taking the action to move ahead and live on purpose, live not like we feel like we're supposed to, but like we want to.
Yes, and what would you say is the main difference between the dragon and the goat, since we live with both in our minds?
Well, the biggest difference, honestly, is if you look at the way that our brains are put together, we actually have three brains. We have our lizard brain, right? So it's an emotion brain, and it's very instinctive, it's very fast, and that's where all of our emotions kind of like come out all in one shot. But then we have a thinking and a logic brain. And so the difference between the dragon and the goat is the dragon is, again, all of those stories that we roll in our heads that hold ourselves back. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve things. This won't work. We worry about the future. The dragon, if you can imagine, is all of the scary things. The goat, which is an acronym for greatest of all time, is something each one of us has. I am my own greatest of all time, but the dragon will push that down to, quote unquote, keep us safe. But when you shrink it, then what you need to identify is what is your greatest. And that honestly starts with what makes you happy, what work makes you happy, what schedule makes you happy, what kind of people, what environment, what things, what experiences. And when you start there to just take that, what feels like a tiny step, but it's very hard for some people to put together, and you identify what makes you happy, then because you're not held back anymore, you start creating ideas and start taking steps towards living a life that you're really, really proud of and that makes you very excited.
And some might say that living your goat life is selfish, but do you think that really is?
No, I really don't. And it's an interesting kind of response to living a goat life. So selfishness, in the way I look at it, is doing things for yourself at the detriment of others. Living your goat life is no longer making excuses for yourself, but it's also setting boundaries. And this is where the selfishness comes from. So if I've never set boundaries, like, on my time or effort, and I'm just always saying yes to people, and suddenly I decide, you know what, I actually don't want to do that, and I start to set boundaries and say no, or to stand up for myself, it makes everyone around you kind of squidgy. And so that's where you can get that feedback, oh, you're being selfish, when really you're being self-validating, excuse me, and you're taking care of yourself. And so that's the difference between, living a goat life, taking care of yourself, saying, what is it that makes me just shine with happiness? And if there are people in your life that don't like your shine, they will come at you with some of these phrases like you're being selfish. And that's when you start to make an assessment of maybe that's a boundary you need to set on the kind of people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Well, this is definitely a book that I'm really interested in reading. I'm sure others are too. So what's next for you, and how can people find that book?
So the book is on Amazon, so you can get it on all the Amazons, across the world where they sell. So the best way of looking it up is The Dragon and the Goat, and then my name, Rebecca Mountain, take you right there. You can also get it on my website, which also has lots of videos and other things, little snippets I take from the book and some of the other training that I do, which is all predicated on helping as many people to live the happiest, wealthiest, and most fulfilled lives that they possibly can. And my website is RebeccaMountain.ca.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.